The best personal brands are authentically approached but strategy backed. So the speed of social has got faster from a consumption perspective because we're scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, but also from a creation perspective. I think we're creating so much now. It doesn't feel like it feels like you have, as a consumer, been gamed to consume. And I think people are very aware of that now.
I had a few videos that have reached a few million people. One of them, I think it reached 3 million, and I did a flip in the field. I was like, this is how you speak on camera. Would you like to guess how many leads I got as a result of this beautiful video?
I'm going to say 0.
Oh. Yeah, absolutely 0.
If you've ever had a viral video and then wondered why it didn't bring you a single customer, this conversation explains exactly why that happens.
Who are you creating this piece of content for? What's the takeaway for them? What's the value you're sharing? Like, keep it very, very condensed, but go deep. Go a mile deep, not a mile wide. Pick a subject, pick a person, and own that. It's like I said to you earlier, just pick a platform, own it, and master it. It just takes work. It just takes work, but it will pay off. It will categorically pay off. I wholeheartedly believe that.
Welcome to The Business Engine, the first ever episode, and we have the incredible Jack. He was a phenomenal first guest, and I hope you love this episode. If you do, please follow, let me know what you think of the episode, let Jack know what you think. Thank you for tuning in. Enjoy. Jack, thank you for coming on to the podcast.
Pleasure.
Who are you? Why would people listen to you? And what insights can people gain from listening to this episode?
I'm Jack. Thank you very much for introducing me. I am ex-agency. I was in the agency game for almost 10 years. Built it, exited, built a community. I've made videos to market all 3 of the businesses that I've built. And my goal with this is to give people insights into creating videos that actually help to get them customers to grow their business. So hopefully I can be of service, sir.
Thank you. Sounds perfect. What a great, lovely intro. And content has changed over the last few years. And I'd love to start with noticing the differences between what worked well in the past to what works well now or in the future. So you could go further back if you wanted to, but if you were to look at 2021, 2020, 2022, what success looked like then in terms of content and personal brand, how has that changed as we go into 2026 and even beyond?
Oh God, 2022. I mean, I think the landscape looked a lot different than it does now on social. I think it was definitely less noisy in terms of the personal branding era that we're in at the moment. I think I don't think you can afford to not have a personal brand now. I would argue that it's been probably the defining factor of all of the customers that I've got for my small business. I think without it, I wouldn't have got as far as I've got. It's changed so much. I would argue for the better with how cheap kit has got, with the use of AI, with support from LLMs, and being able to think of an idea, execute, distribute within the space of a day, which I would argue took a lot longer, even just a couple of years ago, to put your idea into practice. So the speed of social has got faster from a consumption perspective because we're scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, but also from a creation perspective. I think we're creating so much now. It's changed significantly from when I started it. But I think also from a competitiveness standpoint, it's very, very noisy. I don't think you can afford to treat social passively anymore. I think you have to lead with strategy first. I think without a strategy on your social, I think you're going to really struggle. I don't think you can just think of an idea, post it online, hope that it does well for you. I think you've got to put some real thought into building this personal brand. Whereas I would argue, I'm happy to be challenged on it a little bit, that many years ago it was probably a little bit easier to do it, especially on platforms like LinkedIn or X. I think the early adopters are still around on those platforms, and they've kind of leveraged themselves to now the top 1%. And we can all think of them off the top of our heads. I won't name people, but I think they had it a little bit easier in the early days where it wasn't as busy.
Why do you think it is so much more busy now? And as a result of it being more noisy and people are just scrolling through more and more creators, why do you think that is? And what is the opportunity of that, but also the negative consequence of it being so noisy and so many people are doing similar kinds of things on social media?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think you are the amalgamation of the environment and the people that you spend your time around. And I think if you're consuming so much content at such scale and such speed all of the time, I think that's naturally going to influence the actions you take within your business. For example, if you see no one creating content, and let's say you run a manufacturing company, chances are, well, you're probably not going to start making content because they've managed to do it without it. Vice versa, if you see everybody's creating content and suddenly everyone's building their personal brand, they're talking about these subjects, they're industry experts, etc., thought leaders, then the chances are that you're going to do the same thing with a slight variation, but more or less it's going to be the same kind of stuff. I think with everybody now doing more or less the same stuff within the safety bubble of never really venturing out into new ideas. It's it's iterations of the same stuff in slightly different ways, but not enough to substantially make them different. For example, podcasts. Podcasts haven't really been innovated within for a long time. It's still a couple of people having a chat through a mic, cool. Now we're starting to see innovation made with it a little bit after a long time of it being fairly stagnant, where people are building full sets. And we mentioned this again, Chris Williams, his podcast, he's got like a big RV in the background. They've got a whole wall of LED panels that are presenting like a country Wild West look onto it. And it's become this whole thing. I think you can't now afford to be vanilla. I think you have to do something a little bit different. Otherwise, you run the risk of blending in and kind of falling into that trap of the whitewash, the done before. So I'd argue, whilst the barrier to entry has got easier to create the content, I think to win with content, it's got so much harder. I think that's where you have to change tactics from what worked in 2022 to now coming into 2026 and then beyond that.
Yeah. How would you recommend that you move away from that while still being inspired by a lot of these people? How do you consume this content, become inspired, but still have an identity that is unique? Do you have any specific recommendations for people like they want to make content, but they feel like when they start, it's just going to be the same voice as somebody else, but through my mouth?
That's an interesting one. What advice could I give on that? I would say a lot of that will come through practice and having a bit of skin in the game and experience under your belt. I think you have to scrape your car down the side of a wall to fully understand the distance or the width of it, right? You kind of got to make those mistakes and learn through the art of doing, as opposed to learn in theory and then being too petrified to put it into practice. So I think remind me of the question, sorry.
How do you not mimic what you're watching, what you're consuming, essentially?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it kind of comes down to mindset a little bit. And this is a journey that I've been on for the last year since running an agency and making videos for people professionally, to now teaching them how to do it themselves for their own small business, kind of making agencies a bit redundant, sorry to say, but I think everyone needs the skill to be able to do it themselves. It's more, from my experience, it's more about mindset than it is the kit, the idea, building the system, building the discipline. It's more about getting out of your head a lot of the time. I think when people go onto social and they consume content, they are not in a productive mindset. They are in the mindset of, I'm bored, or I'm not sure what to do, or I'm just going to kill some time for a minute just before my next meeting or whatever. I'm not involved in this conversation, so I'm just going to zone out and scroll through social. I think in that, it opens up this very comparison-heavy, relatively negative way of consumption, because we are comparing and we're over-analyzing and we're judging ourselves as, compared to the people who are creating some pretty strong stuff, and we're going, well, I'm never going to look that good, or well, their content's just reached thousands of people, I'm never going to be that good. Whereas I would always encourage people to approach social in more of a productive, proactive mindset. So as you're scrolling, you're looking at people's content, and rather than going, oh, they've done really well, I can't do that. What is it that you like about their content? When it comes to ideas, if you think that's such a good idea, don't think, oh, they've done the idea, now I can't do it. What's the question that they would have had to ask themselves to come up with that idea in the first place? It's trying to retrain your brain into thinking, how can I do this? Or what do I need to do or to think about or to put into practice so I can achieve something similar to this? I think just actively scrolling and kind of just going, oh, they're better, this is a great piece of content, and staying in this consumer as opposed to a creator mindset is really, really dangerous. But I think it's down to mindset. I think you've got to have the mental discipline. You've got to treat social not as a social thing. It's a business thing. It's something that you should be doing BD on, business development. You should be doing sales on it. You should be learning how to generate leads on these platforms. Chances are your listeners are not going to be wanting to be the next LinkedIn influencers or Instagram socialites, etc. They're here to earn money, get customers, build an awesome business, build a lifestyle business, whatever it is. So I think you've got to train your brain to see social as not a fun thing. It's a work thing, and you've got to try and put all the pieces of the puzzle together from the information that you get.
Yeah,
from it.
It's a tool, isn't it?
It's definitely a tool. That's the short version of what I just said. Use it as a tool, not as a treat.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Yeah. No, I hear you. And I think it's easy when you're just scrolling on, especially platforms like TikTok and Instagram. Less so with LinkedIn. I think it lends itself more to an interactive social business-oriented platform, which is great. And I think there are other platforms which lend themselves more to doom scrolling and just spending as much time as possible on them. But I've been trying to use LinkedIn more purposefully, not just scrolling mindlessly, but trying to consume and engage and build a community. And it's quite hard to comment on things sometimes. I often think that a good measure of a successful video, in some ways, is how easy it is to engage with. If I watch a video and I'm like, I have no idea what to say. I have no contribution. I think if you can give some sort of joke or contrarian opinion, or you agree with them, or you can add value, then I'm like, oh, this is a good post. And I think that's one thing I like to take from other people's content. I'm curious what you think about the differences between the different platforms. I'm trying to focus more on distributing across more platforms than Instagram and LinkedIn at the time of recording this. What would you say is how would you summarize or explain the differences between somebody who's posting on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube? And how would you talk to somebody who is confused about where they should distribute their content?
I mean, yeah, I can sum it up in one question. It's, where are your customers? It's kind of it, right? If your customers are not on TikTok, then don't put your time into TikTok, you know. I think it kind of comes down to also where you are, what part of the funnel. If you want to get a bit technical with it, I try and keep it very light touch where I can, but top, middle, bottom. Most people listening will know what I mean by top, middle, bottom. Top of funnel awareness, middle of funnel nurture, bottom of funnel conversion. Where are they in this stage? Do they know who you are in the first place? If so, maybe YouTube could be cool because it's a discoverable platform. It's based on search. If they do know you and maybe they were looking to learn more about your business and how you do your products and services, maybe LinkedIn makes more sense because it's a little bit more commercially focused. The website is always going to be bottom of funnel as well, but it kind of comes down to where do you put, you know, most of your effort that gets most of the results. My concern with you specifically going down all the different routes of lots of different socials is you kind of scattergun yourself a little bit. I'd much rather use you as an example here as a small business owner who's doing well and wants to grow his business, to just laser focus on one thing, just do one platform really well. I don't know if I can swear on a podcast or not.
I don't care.
Okay, fine. Do it really fucking well. Absolutely laser focus on YouTube, or absolutely go all fucking in on LinkedIn and absolutely crush that platform, really master that. And then once you've got the system built and you know how it works and it's working, then start to put 20% of your effort into something else just to see and test the waters. Problem is when you are so diversified and your time is so stretched thin, you can't do anything well. You're a D&D guy. I like D&D as well, right? I've lost my analogy right there. What was my analogy? It was that it takes time to build the campaigns. You couldn't just suddenly build 6 different D&D campaigns and they're all going to smash it. You've got to put 4 hours into one and laser focus on that for it to be good, right? It's the same thing with social platforms. Sorry, a bit of a nerding out.
I like it. I love it. I did not expect D&D to come out that now. Perfect.
But you've got to go all in on one. Really master it. There's no point being vaguely everywhere where you can be absolutely somewhere and speak the language of the people that are on that platform. Really understand how it works from a creative and a scientific angle. Content is 50% an art, it's 50% a science. You've got to master both sides of things. It's not good enough just to post a nice looking video. You've got to know the strategy and the systems and the analytics and the data behind that. Short answer is I wouldn't do everything all at once. I think it will stretch you too thin. I think you'll burn yourself out. And I'd rather people just invest their time into the one or two places that they know their audience are going to be.
Yeah.
In terms of the platform specifically, I've always seen, from my experience of running an agency, we used to do a lot of D2C stuff, fast-moving consumer goods, CPG stuff. We used to do a lot of stuff on TikTok and Instagram because it's really where a lot of D2C stuff was, e-com, those sorts of things. LinkedIn, YouTube I found great for B2B, service-based businesses more specifically. Email, again, kind of across the board, if that's, even you consider it a social thing, but not really.
I think it's kind of an extension of it, isn't it?
I think people need to have it. But yeah, I've always seen TikTok and Instagram as more the e-com stuff, LinkedIn, YouTube more as the B2B service based. And I'm sure you can pollinate and you can et cetera over all of them, but generally speaking, that's where I've found has worked really well, because the mindset people are in when they're on these platforms is very different. If you're on YouTube, chances are you're watching something either because it's popped up and the packaging of the video has made you go, oh, I'm curious, I'm going to click, or it's because you've searched intently for something that you're trying to solve a problem to. TikTok, again, from my experience as a consumer, it's very much scroll. Oh, I like that. Scroll. So the mindset people are in, again, it goes from are you just consuming? Are you productively trying to learn something?
Yeah.
Right?
Active or passive?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Better way of explaining it.
Yeah. What would you say is the pros and cons of short form, and then the pros and cons of long form? And therefore, what would you recommend people spend more time on?
That's a great question, because then the problem with this question is it's everybody's situation is very different. The specificity and the cadence of people's lives or their business or their goals really dictates the answers to those questions. I would argue that short form is great for very quick, pattern interrupt, fleeting moments of attention where it's just a nice reminder that you exist. And I'm saying all of this from the angle of I'm a business owner. I'm not just an influencer. I'm trying to think of the people who are going to be listening to the podcast. So it's a nice reminder that you exist. I would have said maybe a year ago that it was easier to create short form. I think it's actually harder to create short form because I think you've got to package everything up that you want to say in a much more condensed way.
I find that as well. I'm recording short form. And I do find this when I'm recording like an advert for somebody or the hook, but in short form, every single word feels crafted. And I think in that perfection of your phrasing, it loses some authenticity.
I agree.
And long form, you feel like you can just be authentic, just talk. And if you don't say everything word for word perfect, if you use a filler word or it's not perfectly constructed, people are watching and enjoying anyway. Whereas it feels like you're grabbing onto attention with short form.
Definitely. I think, the words I use is engineered and it feels manufactured with the short form. It doesn't feel like you. It feels like you have, as a consumer, been gamed through packaging, title, design, hooks, calls to action, pattern interrupts, all these different techniques that you can use when you create a video to consume. And I think people are very aware of that now. Whereas many years ago, when we were going through this transition of vlogs, the OGs like Alfie Days and Zoella and
that's what came to
Joe
mind.
Thatcher's, the Casey Neistat's, Pete McKinnon's, like these were, and I think still are to some degree, the OGs of social, right? They've always stuck around. PewDiePie, these guys that have stayed with you for a long time. Short form then kicked in because, like you said, platforms, short form kind of came around because of the For You algorithm, which was based on what you dwelled on, retention, watch time, those sorts of things, as opposed to relevancy, opposed to things that you were searching for. It was more based on what you're consuming a lot of the time. And I want to say Instagram did that first. I think I might be wrong there. Maybe it was Facebook, and then TikTok came to life. I can't remember the history of it all, but basically what happened is TikTok became the GOAT of the For You algorithm. Lots of other social platforms use the For You algorithm based on what you watched. So every time you now go onto social, you're just being thrown stuff that isn't necessarily relevant to you, but because your your caveman brain is so like, high dopamine, I want, all this good stuff.
Yeah.
You're going to sit and watch it. People cutting glass with a knife, or it's like, why am I watching this stuff?
You just you know that it's a waste of time, but
And
it's
people are
just
aware
addictive.
now.
But even though a lot of people create this content, you think, oh, it's addictive, it gets views, and you might look at those numbers and think, got 1 million followers and loads of people watch my videos. This is what success looks like on TikTok. But then translating that in short form is near impossible unless you have things to support it. And maybe your short form is a teaser or pushes people towards long form. And maybe your long form pulls people to building a relationship and maybe a sales funnel or your website. And I think short form is a great tool to be used as part of a library of content, but it doesn't build a relationship like long form does.
And that's why I love long form content. I've always loved long form. I was one of the old vloggers back in the day of YouTube. Had an alright channel at the time, but I ended up deleted because I got bullied at school when I was doing them. Long story, but I won't say that here, but it's for another day. And I then went back into short form, or jumped into short form, saw the reach go crazy, millions and millions and millions of views, which is insane. That never translated into benefits from the business, you know.
I had this, I haven't had many, but I've had a few videos that have reached a few million people. And one of them, I think it reached 3 million. And I just did a flip in the field. And then I was running at the camera. I was like, this is how you speak on camera. And it was a short form and high energy. And it was a flip. So it was like something weird going on. And it did really well. And you could see where this is going. Would you like to guess how many leads I got as a result of this beautiful video?
I'm going to say 0.
Oh, yeah, absolutely 0. I got maybe a couple hundred followers, but absolutely no business came from it. And the views, the followers don't reflect business. And it's hard when you're trying to consume other people's content. You think this is what successful content is, but it doesn't reflect what a successful business is, and successful business supports a successful company.
I totally agree. And I think this is the most important thing. I think people's mindsets are now shifting so quickly to, why are we spending all this time creating short form stuff? And arguably still a lot of people struggle with the short form stuff. And I think that's, you know, it's fair dues, because it's got harder to stand out with short form. 5 years ago, you post, like you said, a flip in a field and some advice, you'd go reach millions and millions of people. It's very different now because everyone's gone to short form. Problem is, everyone's gone to short form not understanding how to create short form stuff, and not understanding the techniques or the skill set or the way to structure a short form video. It's super complex compared to a long form piece of content. But I think people are now, at least I am, I don't know about yourself, mate, but I'm knackered from consuming short form stuff all the time. It's so draining. And we always have those moments where we sit in bed and we're just scrolling before we go to sleep, or we wake up and we're scrolling again, and we're on lunch break and we're scrolling again. You kind of sit there sometimes and you go, what the fuck am I doing? Why am I just wasting all this time? And I think people are knackered from it, really. I think it's all this such high level of dopamine addiction to the scroll, that gambling-esque style of just swiping your thumb all the time. I think people are clocking onto it now, being like, what are we doing? I think people want to approach their marketing and their content in a much more productive, purposeful way. That's a good word. Purposeful. It's got to be intentional. There's got to be a motive behind spending the time, money, energy on creating this asset. And I think short form is classed as ephemeral content, which is the technical word for that. Ephemeral basically means it'll live for about a day or two, then it will die. That's kind of what you find. TikTok, it's the same. You post it on the feed, it'll then go into the 200 view jail, and it will kind of die. Instagram Reels are the same. YouTube Shorts are kind of the same to a degree, because they're all based on For You. That's changing now as well. People want to consume stuff more purposefully, and I think creators want to support their consumers in valuing their time a bit more. But I also think we're kind of doing this flip where now everyone's spent such a long time, I'd argue about 5 or 6 years on short form. They've forgotten how to be themselves on camera and go back to the OG ways of just sitting for an hour and just having a chat and just sharing your experience. But what we think about now is, even on a podcast, I was sitting thinking here, how do I make sure that the podcast hook of this is going to be biteable? Why am I sitting there thinking that? Why can't I just get on camera and just share what I know, and it will naturally find the right person and help them to solve their problem, right?
I know that when I'm writing short porn, almost said short porn. We're not making that. We're not making that.
Sure what you're into, mate, yeah.
Short form piece of content. I am much more aware of every single word I'm saying and the structure and how to pace it and the framing and all that kind of stuff. When I'm making long form feels more authentic. But then again, it's long form. Does it take longer? How do I practically transform my short form into long form? Or how do I just start making long form content broadly, would you say?
Solve a problem for one person. Rule of one: who are you creating this piece of content for? What's the takeaway for them? What's the value you're sharing? Like, keep it very, very condensed, but go deep. Go a mile deep, not a mile wide. Pick a subject, pick a person, and own that. So like I said to you earlier, just pick a platform, own it, and master it. Same thing with an idea. If you have conversations with people, this is the easiest way. If you have conversations with the clients, and they say, "Oh, Jack, I'm really stuck with how to choose cameras for my videos." I'll go, right, well, I'll make a 30-minute video on cameras for you. And I'll go a fucking mile deep and I'll tell you all the specifics of what this camera does compared to this camera, what sort of budget you go in for, what lenses you need, how to do color. I'll teach you everything you need to know about that thing. Chances are it won't go viral because not millions of people are sitting there going, oh, what camera do I choose? Maybe a couple of thousand people watch that, maybe a couple of hundred, but I can guarantee you there'll be the right people who have just spent half an hour learning from your expertise, and they now see you as the authority in this space. When they need or want the product or service that you offer, they'll go, who was that guy who made that, or girl who made that piece of content a couple of months ago? Oh, it's Jack. Oh, he does the video stuff. Oh, we'll ask Jack about this. It's just how it works. I don't know how it works. The stars and moon have to align in a certain way, but you just have to give everything that you know to people for free, and then you charge for them for implementation. That's what I would say. Give advice, give everything you know, teach people the way that you do things, and then charge for implementing it or doing it for them. That's what I would do.
I find it interesting when I looked at a YouTube Rewind and I had my top 3 creators, and my number 1, I didn't recognize them.
Really?
And it was so ironic. And they produce short form content.
So I made a video a couple of weeks ago, and I said, and I'll test it with you now. Name me a long form YouTuber in New York City. Oh no, you're the worst person because everyone I tell you about, so you don't know anybody.
This is notorious. This is the same. Like, everybody knows this. So I don't. It's about films. You ask me films, great. I'm bad at this kind of stuff. So I'm sorry to, but I know what you like. The rough idea is name the last 5 short form pieces of content, last 5 long form pieces of content. You're like, I can remember the long form because I built a relationship. I know the person, I know the message, but then I have no idea what the last 100 reels that I've watched are. You just can't. They don't connect with you. I think the best short form content builds familiarity and you recognize them, but it ultimately pulls you to something else, like a long form piece of content.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that's where it could be useful. But if you build your business just on short form, I don't think that you're making the best use of social media, really.
I think if you build your business on short form, I think you win the attention game. I think people will see you. I think the problem is they will never buy from you because you haven't established that level of authority and relationship and trust with people before they purchase. I think the trust part comes in the nurture stage, which is when people spend depth and time with you. I think that comes from long form. But I would argue that long form is not as hard to create as short form. From a quantity perspective, let's say, for example, you spend a whole day creating short form content, you can maybe get 5-10 different videos out of that day. If you really script them and, etc. If you're making a long form video, you're probably filming for an hour or 2 sometimes. You really want to dive in deep. Podcast, hour setting up, pre-chat, you film all the stuff after. It takes a long time to do this, right? But I would argue that the return on that time investment is significantly greater than it would be on a short form. Even though you're not putting as much out, the quality of the stuff that you are putting out is so much grander. And I would argue that would convert more people into a customer. That's from my experience anyway. I've had more people in the last year, the 12 months of changing businesses around, come from my YouTube content than my LinkedIn short form content, which is really interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. The penultimate question I'd love to ask you is, people who are starting to create content, maybe over the span of a year, what would you expect that person to achieve, and what kind of effort do you expect them to put in over that year? What would you say the process is for the expectations of maybe their viewers or of themselves when they begin this content journey?
That's a great question. So I used to run an agency. And everyone knows that by now. And so in October 2024, I launched my video community. We've now got 100 people in, etc. It's done really well for the first year. I have learned more about my audience in the last year than I have in almost a decade of doing it professionally for people, which is kind of insane. The biggest thing that they get stuck with is the time to pay off, or the time investment versus the return that they get. So many people jump in for 3 months, because we do it quarterly, and they go, haven't really achieved what I thought I was going to achieve, so it's not really helped. And I go, but you haven't posted a fucking video yet. What are you like, how are you expecting to get these results in 12 weeks time? You know, we live in this age now where we've taken the old phrase of the snake oil salesman and we've turned it into, it's like the snake oil information era a little bit, where you see all these big influencers who are creating all these big 6 figures in 30-day courses, or build your personal brand with this exact framework system. It's an absolute load of shit, because again, I think I said this earlier, everyone's situation is very different. I don't know how much time you have in your business. I don't know your personality type. I don't know whether you are a great facilitator or a communicator, or if you're a better writer. What works for me does not work for other people. It's taken me the best part of probably 10 years building my personal brand and reputation. But that's been an intentional decision to focus on the long term as opposed to the short term. Mm-hmm. When people are just starting with content, you cannot expect to have a thriving business in 12 months' time, or to be the next big name on this platform. Chances are you're going to feel a little bit better about yourself. You've maybe posted, I don't know, low 10s, 40, 50 pieces of content that are going to be pretty crap, I'll be honest. Mm-hmm. But in that journey of creating the stuff, you are progressively getting better and better and better. So that first year is more of a teething stage. And that's if you're creating stuff every week without fail, you're sticking to the routine, you're learning more about yourself, you're learning about how you talk to camera, the editing style that you click with the most, how you feel comfortable. And it's more of an introspective journey and a mindset shift, as opposed to we're going to get £1 million in sales this year from the podcast we've just launched. No, you're not. Because if you were going to do that, then why isn't everybody else doing the same thing? If it's that easy, then we'd all be millionaires, right? It's not the case. Super fucking hard to do this. So realistic expectations would be it's going to take a long time to achieve what you want. And I think it's changing your mindset less from how do we make our videos get us leads. I think it's more about, let's try and find the fun in mastering the process and mastering the art of making those mistakes to get a little bit better. And then every time we post something, we can learn something. And then with that learning, we can apply data. And with data, we can make better stuff that then gets us more customers, or gets us better customers, or we can charge more for what we do. It's just a very slow process that will take people years to do. And I say that because that is the realistic expectation. That is the reality of the situation. If you could grow to 6 figures in 90 days, whoop-de-doo if that is the case. And I'm sure there's some people out there that have done that. But for most people, it's not going to happen. And the problem is when they have this expectation of, and it's been 12 weeks, I've posted 5 videos, they haven't done viral, but it's not working for us. Yeah. It is working for you. You're just early. That's all it is. You've just started in the game of creating content. You're not doing anything wrong. You're doing everything right. It's just that the people that you compare yourself to, from turning this conversation back to what we were saying earlier, they've been doing it for 10 years and you've been doing it for 12 weeks. That's the only difference, that they have achieved more than you or are doing better than you, because they've got 500,000 followers and you've got 5. It's just, you're just early. So you need to get in the game. But the first year will teach you everything that you need to know about what you're bad at and what you suck at, so that the next year you can go, well, let's double down and let's use what we've learned to hopefully have a better year. And I say that in the nicest way, because it just takes time, mate. And I'm just sick of
you are your own worst critic, and nobody judges you more than you judge yourself. You compare yourself to people who've been doing it for 20 years and have a production team behind them, and you're like, this is where I should be. And it's not the case. It's slow, it's learning, and it's nice to enjoy the journey, not the destination.
I think that's
as
what
you were
you've got
saying
to do.
As well.
Yeah, you just got to enjoy. You've got to enjoy the process of making those mistakes, and almost feel inspired that one day you're going to nail it and it's going to be the best thing ever. And you're going to look back and go, I wish I started years before when I started. But you've got to go on that wild ride, and you have to fail, and you have to suck at it a bit. It's like running a business. I don't know any of my friends who are not LinkedIn influencers or, the biggest creators on the planet, just average people who build a business to support themselves, the family, earn a bit of money in the process, but do good as well in the world. It takes them years to build a business, 5-10 years, really. The first 5 years are just learning, making mistakes, scrappy startup, You only kind of get good at it through the decades of doing the thing. It's the same with video, So it's like a little mini plea to anyone that is listening. Just be realistic and just try and find the fun in it. Come up with ideas that you think are great, share your piece of value to the world, try and help people, and just do that for longer than anybody else can be bothered to do. And the chances are you're going to do really well.
Perfect. And if we could summarize this, I guess, this whole conversation and also your perspective on what a good personal brand is, how would you describe the gold standard of content, personal brand, posting in a succinct, a few words as possible? What would that look like?
The best personal brands are authentically approached but strategy backed.
That was fantastic.
That wasn't
I
pre-planned.
I love that.
Authentically approached but strategy backed. You've got to approach it as you are. If you're trying to put on a false facade and it's not you, you're not going to stick to it.
It's performative. People will see it.
But you can't just do it at random. You have to be very clever with why you create certain ideas, or you have to understand the data behind, well, this type of content has worked and this hasn't. So let's not spend time doing 10 more podcast episodes that haven't worked. Let's do 10 more that have in this particular style. You've got to use the data as well. So you've got to use yourself and a really good, strong strategy that you will figure out over time through mistakes. Mm-hmm. And I think that will get you pretty far. But again, it all comes down to if I can sum this up in any way, and a nice bit of advice is I've been now running my own business for 10 years. I've seen people come and go through different industries, mates that have shut and started and all the rest of it. It's never really about being the best at what you do. It's just about doing it for longer than people can be bothered to stick around for, because it's fucking hard work. And I think when you put all your belief and energy and love into building something that is slow, I think it's very easy to go, it's not working, I will find a quicker win somewhere else or a shorter term thing. Just stick with it, is all I can say, because people don't, and it just takes work. It just takes work, but it will pay off. It will categorically pay off. I wholeheartedly believe that. So it's taken me 10 years and I'm getting there. So yeah.
What an amazing first ever episode. Thank you so much for making the journey.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Jack.
Cheers, man.